what did you learn about quarterbacking?
I think one of the most interesting things, the book is a lot about American ambition and American fame. And I think that quarterback has gotten so big, and almost from the moment it was started and invented by Walter Camp in 1906, like I have it's not a history of the quarterback, but I have historical aspects. And like almost from that moment, it was defined and held in kind of a lofty status within the football world and even beyond. But like, starting with really Bob Waterfield and Jane Russell. I mean, they might have been the country's first power couple in the 1940s. Here, the LA Rams moved from Cleveland in part because of Bob Waterfield's celebrity and Jane Russell's celebrity in 1945.
So Travis and Taylor aren't the first. They're the latest.
They're the prelude. And so I think that like at this point, it's gotten so big that when you look at the makeup you need to be a successful quarterback, it's not just about throwing. I think you need to find people who can weather the fame. And I think that like the people who do it really well, I think have that little piece of their personality where there's a hole that can't be filled, like similar to a politician or a pop star where like they need to be at the center of their own ecosystem. They need to receive constant adulation and love and encouragement. And
so
I think
the toughest position requires some sort of...
There's huge insecurity that goes on with it. You'll read about it. But I mean, there's
confidence you need to play quarterback
among the greats.
Is even born out of insecurity,
I think that even like among the greats, it's most acute. And I think that to me is really fascinating.
Brady's insecure? Like
Well, he did a roast less than a year after he retired.
God,
he sat at center stage, didn't he? Nobody forced him to do it.
We were there.
We were there.
And it was a good roast.
By the way, and again, for somebody who's chronicled the Patriots, it was therapy.
Yeah,
it was. No, I was. And we talked about it.
Yeah.
That Brady's retirement ceremony that happened in New England a few weeks later wouldn't have been nearly as hunky-dory had there not been so much stuff gotten off people's chests,
It's a little crazy because I remember, I'm pretty sure we talked at the time, but, I did that big Patriot story in January of 2018 about, how the principals weren't getting along and maybe, would they look for a way out? And, that story was, that when A took off and B, came under a ton of scrutiny. And like, I always thought, it'll age well. And I think that like, Brady coming out and talking about how frustrated he was and how he wasn't going to return to New England that offseason unless something changed, and how it was kind of on Robert Kraft to make it work, especially in regards to like Alex Guerrero and his role. It was a fascinating time. It was a fascinating time. And then to think what they did after that, they kept winning. And it was just like, it revealed so many things about like the nature of success and both the ego and the submersion of ego involved. Fascinating story.
Now, I think I might be also inaccurate by saying that everything got worked out by the roast. Did you hear Bill Belichick's recent comment about being a college coach, that there's no owner or owner's son, he said from the podium?
He did.
How did that one hit you, Seth?
I think he said it to Ben Volen, right?
Is that what he said? I thought it was.
I think it was Boston
Ben
Globe.
Volen? Okay, pardon me.
But like he, like I said, those things were real. The things that I was writing about them. Tom Curran wrote about them to an extent. But those things were real, and I think that like, look, they pushed the bounds of achievement in football, and it's not surprising that you would start to have some cracks in those relationships. But I do think that. The way things ended in New England between, both Krafts and Bill, I think that that's going to take a little bit more time to mend than it did with Brady, if it ever mends.
Does he feel that he's in college because of that fracture? Does he feel that there was some sort of, nuking of his, opportunity to get a job elsewhere in the NFL? I'm just wondering where this comment might be coming from.
Don Van Natta and I and Jeremy Fowler wrote that story, that came out when he didn't get any jobs. And it looked like he was going to get the Falcons for a bid, and he didn't.
Right.
And we wrote that story about how, Kraft had told the Falcons you can't trust him. And now, did that cost him that job? I think it had some factor in it. And so, we've seen it from Bill. He said it publicly. He's gone back to the valuation of the Patriots before he got there and after he got there. And there's a lot of factors that go into that, but it is a fact that the value of that franchise has gone up quite a bit. And that he and Tom Brady and, a bunch of those great players have helped, the Kraft family quite a bit. And I think that, from the Kraft family point of view, he pissed off the greatest player ever who left, went out and won a Super Bowl. And then he struggled without him. And, the record is what the record was. And especially offensively, they just were never really able. I think when Josh McDaniels was there in Mac Jones' rookie year, they did well and they made the playoffs. But like after that, it never really clicked again.